Some stories are fictional and true, others interesting and not very true, while others are overheard and seen. They happen to us, our friends, and to complete strangers, every single day, in the most different and even unusual places. Some go by us unnoticed, others, on the contrary, cause emotions. We express laughter or sadness at them. We show surprise, indignation, live through them, size them up, compare or draw conclusions. The ability to analyze is our distinguishing feature, a human attribute, as it were. What about emotion? It's not true that in the modern world people have forgotten how to live with sincere emotions. Of course, the speed of life today is crazy, but people don't stop being human beings because of this. They still dream, love, and believe it or not, tell stories. Stories from life. I lived in the center of Kiev, quite close to the Kiev-Moskovsky station. And as a child, I often went to watch the trains, went for a walk with my grandfather. Everyone wanted to visit the driver's cabin and look ahead. There was a time as a child when there were such end doors between the cabin and the salon, where the paint had faded, and we even came up to see through the little eye. What was ahead there? Not every big city has a subway. In this sense, Kiev was lucky. The subway for citizens and guests of the capital is an indispensable form of transport, a fast and reliable way of getting from point A to point B, without traffic jams, traffic lights, intersections, and various other interferences, such as oncoming cars and pedestrians. We value the subway for speed and convenience. Attention, the doors are closing. Next station is Dnipro. Exit is to the right. The Dnipro metro station was unveiled on November 6, 1960. It's one of the stations that make up the Svetoshino-Brovarsky line of the Kiev metro. For 5 years, until 1965, it was the last and the only ground station in Kiev. From here, the train went in the opposite direction. Its almost open platform still remains the longest of all existing platforms, 124 meters. The station is located across the highway, at a height about 6 meters above ground level. Initially, it had 4 exits, 2 of which led right to the Dnipro embankment. Two monumental sculptures, Peace and Labor, installed on glass pavilions, meet trains coming from the left bank of the city and complete the architectural ensemble of the Dnipro station. The route taken by the Kiev metro, which is 9.2 kilometers long, passes through the city center from the right bank of the Dnipro River to the Bolshevik plant. The metro project was approved in spring 1945. 4 years later, the first mines were laid in Kiev, and the construction of the subway began. It was the third in the Soviet Union after Moscow and Leningrad. The opening of the first metro line in the capital of Ukraine was set for November 6, 1960, on the eve of the latest anniversary of the October Revolution. One of those who actively participated in the launch of the Kiev metro was Mykola Kurilenko. Of course, it was his dream. People of his profession, trolleybus drivers, were invited to work in taxi and on the railway, but Mykola Kurilenko refused all offers because he could not imagine a better job than working on the capital subway system. And so he waited till they were hiring train drivers.
кадрового отдела, набирал людей.
I come to the head of the personnel department who was recruiting people and told him that I was a deputy of a district council, but I wanted to be a metro driver. After hearing what I told him, he took me on as an assistant driver.
Вот. Ну и взяли меня на должность помощника машиниста.
Today, only a few people know that for the first 10 years until 1970, there were just 3 cars in a train, and they were run by 2 people. For example, without a command from his assistant, the train driver had no right to either close the doors or move away from the station. Then there were no large mirrors on the platform, and it was the assistant who watched the boarding of passengers. There was no automatic speed control system. The commands forward and stop were also served by the assistant driver. Moreover, there was no connection with the central dispatch center either. In the event that any breakdown or stoppage for another reason on the route between stations, the driver contacted the duty staff of the station only by phone. At the same time, the phone had to be found in the tunnel. Here's one more interesting fact. On the eve of the opening of the metro in Kiev, its first head, Mykola Orlov, addressed Kiev citizens by radio. People were invited to try out the new subway.
Старшие люди боялись спускаться в метрополитен.
Older people were afraid to go down into the subway. Nobody wanted to go underground, though young people even met for dates there. Some guy invites a girl out and waits to meet her there, and here she comes. At first, the Kiev Metro wasn't open for everyone. After the ceremonial launch on November 6th, it worked in so-called test mode. Entry was for official delegations, organized groups of school children and students, employees of sectoral ministries and departments, and the fact that people had to descend underground was seen back then as a piece of entertainment. And only a week later, the subway in Kiev began to operate for its intended purpose – to transport passengers. The route from Vokzalna station to Dnipro station, 5 kilometers and 200 meters long, passed with stops at the University, Khreshchatyk and Arsenalna stations, and it took about 8 minutes.
Когда ты ездишь на линии и въезжаешь на станцию, то успеваешь проскочить.
When you ride the lines and drive into a station, you have time to scan 80% of people on the platform. And among these people, you still have time to see friends.
Ощущение, что у тебя весь город на виду. Есть и такие, что...
There are also familiar individuals who just happen to be there at the same time.
Таких, которых ты знаешь. Ты успеваешь из толпы выхватить знакомые лица, иногда бывает подмигнуть даже.
And here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Train drivers even put on special glasses because of the bright sun. Dnipro station. Exit is to the right. There are a few passengers here. Since the tram was closed on Naberezhny highway, this picture has become a familiar. The regulars of the station are mostly fishermen who shop on Bukhara. A Bukhara in Kiev is fishing gear market, located right there under the overpass. These lovers of fishing come here in any weather. Tourists and just dreamers can be seen here as well. The panorama here is quite amazing. In good weather, the left bank can be seen just as well as from the observation deck. Also, river station, the port and the bridges connecting the banks of the Dnipro River. In the early 1960s, the picture was completely different. The metro didn't go to the left bank. The Dnipro station was the final one. It had its own unique technical solutions. There were no equivalents in the world at that time. In order not to break the plan to launch the metro in the capital of Ukraine, unorthodox and even revolutionary solutions were used at that time. But the truth is that few people today know that the Kiev Metro was launched like no other at the time in the world. Without access roads to the railway, nonsense. The cars came from Moscow, and they arrived at the Darnitsa railway station. Besides, they had to be transported to the Dnipro station.
Сделали мы съезд от железной дороги до трамвайных путей и спускали по этому съезду вагончик.
We made a connecting track from the railroad to the tram tracks and lowered it in order to help the locomotives move the cars to the station at night.
Мотовозы перетаскивали его сюда.
At night, using the tram rails at the Patton Bridge, the first cars, there were 12 of them, were transported here, to the Dnipro metro station. But should these cars find their way into a tunnel located 6 meters above ground, the place to lift the car and turn it around without a dangerous lurch between the mountain and the riverbank was not enough. So then the builders of the Kyiv Metro designed a special lift with a huge concrete turntable and made an opening in the overpass, so the cars appeared right on the platform. The Dnipro station adjoins the building of the former repair shops to the present day. Back then it was equipped with a temporary depot. Experts carried out final assembly of subway cars that arrived from Moscow region. This complex construction work lasted 5 years, until the launch of the metro bridge and the extension to Darnitsa station, as back then it was the only line. The first fully operational depot on the left bank began its work in 1965. And here the very concrete turntable from the Dnipro station still continues to serve faithfully. This model is an exact copy of the Dnipro station of the 1960s. That is how it looked when Mykola Kurilenko came as an assistant driver to the Kyiv Metro and mastered how to handle new cars. These are just historical facts for people, but for him it is his whole life. Perhaps that is why it was his idea to collect archive materials and drawings of this unique structure. People are grateful to Serhiy Homenko, the driver of the Kyiv Metro, for the hard work. It took him about 2 months to create a metro lift model, and now this model is the decoration of the Metro Museum in Kyiv.
Музей открывался в 2000 году.
The museum was opened in the year 2000 and was dedicated to the 40th anniversary of the subway system's unveiling. The idea itself was very interesting, to recreate the work of the Dnipro station when it was launched. By the way, not every passenger can answer or guess how the rolling stock actually got into the tunnel. Serhiy Homenko is 47 but totally into his work. He's been driving subway trains for a long time, flying paragliders, skiing and parachuting. His life cannot be called dull and monotonous, completely extreme and full of romance, an interesting one, with countless original stories on a daily basis. Stories from the life of the subway. Attention, the doors are closing. Next station is